Hey guys, Shed Boy here, and welcome back to another Jamble Wamble Walk career mode video. This time, we're here for the Hungarian Grand Prix, episode number 89 of this My Team journey. In the last episode, someone brought a very interesting fact to my attention. This is currently, and believe it or not, this is the longest running career mode I've ever done on my channel in over, well, not over 10 years, in about 10 years of making videos. This is the longest one at 89 not out. We may potentially get to episode 100, but I think in order to do so, we've got to do another season. So, we'll see how we go. Not promising another season, but that little fact right there has kind of given me an extra bout of motivation, let's say. So we'll see how that goes. But in terms of this episode, rolling into this one, still have the best car, which is absolutely lovely to see. Red Bull have been looking pretty strong, pretty dominant. Alex Albon doing decently lately. Valtteri Bottas doing pretty disappointing Bottas things and not really mounting much of a challenge. But practice one for Hungary. Looking a lot better for Marduk Motorsport. I didn't really show my true hand as such in either of the two sessions. So we'll definitely be more competitive than what we were last episode, that being in Silverstone. That place was just a joke and we were never able to fight. But I think here today, I think we can at least be where we belong to be. So let's head into quali and let's see what we can do. Alright, so let's roll into the weekend proper. If you guys are enjoying this series, the longest running series on the channel, maybe ever. I don't know if there's a series that I've had running longer than career mode. If it is, I don't know what it might be. Maybe online. Does that carry over to another games? I don't know. Either way, if you're enjoying, back to the point, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to see plenty more racing game content. Your support ultimately is what has driven me to keep going, to keep putting out these episodes, to support, 90 episodes in pretty much, and well over 6 months into the game is still really strong. I'm still really enjoying the game, which is a massive positive. So let's keep going. So we'll see how long this journey goes on for, but eventually it will have to come to an end and we'll have to start focusing on the next game. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's get back to the task at hand, and that is qualifying for this Hungarian Grand Prix. Long-time viewers of the channel will know that Hungary is a circuit where the player can really struggle for tyre attempts, and you probably saw that at the end of my first run, the front left tyre absolutely blowing up, so that was not very fun. I tried to do my best to mitigate that by having a really slow outlap to try and keep the core temperatures low. Helped a little bit, but ultimately thermal degradation is controlling or limiting our pace, I would say, at least over the course of one lap. We head into Q2, and again, things are a little bit tricky. We're 1.1 seconds off. That was on a used set of softs, though, so not the end of the world. But this run that we're on now is on a brand new set. And crucially, Lando wasn't too far ahead of us this session. In the first session, he was like over a second faster than us, giving me Silverstone vibes. But this run was only a few tenths off, so that was somewhat encouraging. Anyway, end of the session, and you can see we're finding bundles of time versus our last run with 6 tenths up. As we go through the last corner, we just keep finding time and time. We go up to the line, and it puts us in position 3. Position 3 on a weekend where we're kind of struggling to be that far up the order is a blessing. However, everyone banked in better times towards the end there, and we got demoted down to P7. If you were eagle-eyed enough, you would have seen that I tried a run on the medium compound tyres right at the end of the session. That didn't work. I was hoping the tyre temps would be better on those tyres. In the end, the mediums were just too slow compared to the softs. But anyway, here we are at the end of Q3. We only have one set of tyres to use. That's the free set we get for Q3. And as you can see, that is optimal tyre preparation for your qualifying lap. Just let them go stone cold. They're pretty much cold as we start this lap, so they're a little bit treacherous. But this is what I've got to do to look after the tyres to make sure that they can do a whole lap without overheating. So we're going to ride on board for this one and only lap here in qualifying through. We're currently in P10 at the moment. Like I said, haven't put a time in yet. Qualifying is now over. And you guys can see what it takes to put in a decent lap around this place. So just take note of the lines. This is a pretty good qualifying lap. I didn't make any mistakes, really. Apart from maybe starting the lap with cold tyres, but that's not a mistake. It's intentional for reasons that are obvious. Anyway, we run through the middle sector. Tyre temperatures don't really get too bad until we get to the last 3 corners. So starting right now is when the tyre temps really need to be managed. And for the most part, you are a bit of a passenger. But if you don't take too much life out of the tyres, you might be in okay shape. We go through the last corner in 5th gear, so that's a good indication of no understeer that time. We go up to the line and we do a 1 minute 10.0, which is actually 4 tenths faster than any time I've done all weekend. So that was a massive improvement over Q1 and Q2, but still it's only put us in 8th place. And you guys saw the entirety of the lap. It wasn't a scruffy lap, it was a good lap. So that just shows, well, either how much the tyres are being affected by temperature or just how much better everyone else is driving. But you saw the lap, and I can confirm we're running a good setup for this race, especially, and still nothing. So we've got a lot of work cut out for us in the race. Controlling the tyre temps will be crucial.
It's race day in Budapest as we get ready for another round of the Formula One World Championship. We don't expect too many retirements at this track. There are plenty of current and former drivers with flawless finish rates here. In particular, Ralf Schumacher. He made it across the line in all 10 of his Hungarian Grand Prix starts.
Okay, let's see if we can push for a top 10 finishing position today.
Thank you, not Jeff. Thank you, Crofty, for that kind of irrelevant fact. All the Drive to Survive fans will have no idea who that Ralf Schumacher guy is. But I digress. I mean, even I barely know who he is. That's a joke, by the way. It's a joke. As is my upload schedule. Haha. Alright, here we are on the grid for Hungary. Soft to hards. This is one of the only places on the calendar where I'm going to prefer the hard compound tyre. This is purely for tyre temp reasons. The hards can, I don't know, deal with tyre temps a lot better. It's a much wider working range, so we'll be able to deal with that a lot nicer. So that's the strategy we're going for. 5 red lights, and we are underway for this Grand Prix. Yeah, I hope people are still watching this video. I hope I didn't offend anyone who was from the 2000s era of Formula One. If you are, which I am very, very sorry. Turn 1, it's been pretty good for us, and we're in 8th place, net gain of no positions, which is actually a good thing for me, considering my starting record. We're going to try and go around the outside of Carlos Sainz into turn 2, and that actually works out pretty well for us. The Sainz kind of hesitated behind Russell, and you can see the happy weaving was a good indication of my mood at the start of this race. So getting off on the right foot, tyre temps look to be, I mean, okay at this point. We haven't even done a full lap yet, and this is the part of the circuit where we do struggle. But I think one thing which might work in our favor for the race as opposed to qualifying is that we're cornering a lot slower through these last few corners. So hopefully that means maybe a little bit less energy going through the tire. I know that sounds counterproductive given what I say normally, but we got the inside of Russell there down into turn 1, and that is about as textbook as it gets for an overtake. Here's the replay as Rin Rich an overtake. We have a little move to the inside, not even a dive bomb, no late lunge, just a nice move. Chuck that in an overtaking textbook, and all the youngsters of tomorrow can learn from that one. But yeah, hopefully, because we're going so much slower through the corners, it might mean that we're a little bit better placed in terms of tyre temps. But it could work the opposite way with the car being a lot heavier. And actually, there should, in theory, be more energy going through the tyre, given that there's a heavier car for this race. But anyway, I've not looked after the tyres on this particular lap, as I'm trying to defend from Kvyat. I missed the apex a couple of corners ago, and if you go through the last corner, you can see it's 110 degrees. 110 degrees. How can I even compete with that? You can't even drive around the circuit competitively when the tyre is overheating that much. That is pretty ridiculous. So it looks like the issues we were suffering with in qualifying are following us over to the race as well. So my hypothesis that tyre temps might be less of an issue in the race is complete bogus. So we're going to have to wait until we get onto the hard compound tyre, which Jeff has just suggested. Basically suggesting the exact same strategy that I planned pre-race. On the fly, no less. So nice one, engineers of Marduk Motorsport. Basically being my yes men. But anyway, we ride on board with ourselves. You can see one of the Ferraris behind us made a pit stop. That was George Russell. He's going for a 2-stop in this race, as is my teammate and Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri. So this is an early ploy from my teammate and the AlphaTauri, trying to get themselves out of traffic. But I don't know, depending on where the midfield and back markers are, they may well put themselves right in the thick of it in a few laps' time as they catch up to them. As anyone outside the top 10 will be starting on a harder compound tyre here in Hungary. It's actually a decently high wearing track for tyres, and so it makes a lot of sense to run the medium or the hard and go long in this race, because also it's actually quite hard to overtake. So any track position you can get is absolutely golden, because this is a lot like Monaco in that there's a lot of slow and medium speed corners and not really many overtaking zones. I'm not going to call it Monaco without the barriers, because that's just a bit silly. Anyway, we have Alexander Albon, who has made a few seconds gap up on Norris just by staying out an extra few laps. And he's managed to jump the bulk of the midfield runners. So Albon is looking like he might win this race. He is still on a 2-stop like Lando. But conversely to the front runners, we're actually doing a 1-stop, and we're utilizing the hards. We're a long way back from them as they got a big undercut. But they're still being held up by much slower cars as we rejoin at the head of a back marker train. So that was pretty crucial for us to get ahead of those guys. We do, in fact, jump George Russell. He's 2 spots back. So it's worked out pretty well for us now. All we've got to do is clear Nick de Vries. And given that he's in the slowest car, the one of, we should be able to make pretty quick work of him. You can see we're pretty much all over him as we run through the end of the middle sector. And we're going to try and overtake him maybe into the next right-hander. If we can go up in a rich and overtake, we are going to go for a big, tasty dive bomb. And actually make that work pretty convincingly in the end there. So, nice little gain for us there. Next up the road are both the AlphaTauris, who are well inside the top 5 effectively in this race. That's our first warning for track limits over the course of this race. Let's hopefully not get another penalty in this one. We lost out to Nicholas Latifi last episode because we got a bit too greedy. But, I mean, if we lose out to Nicholas Latifi again, then I think I might just rage quit this career mode. We do not want to be getting a non-points finish in this one. So, yeah, we're catching up to the pack ahead pretty rapidly as they're all getting stuck behind, people on old medium tyres in slower cars, that being the racing points. As you can see, Lando Norris making a move up the inside, and that's his job done on Antoine Hubert. Meanwhile, at the front, you saw about 10 seconds ago, we were following on board with Sebastian Vettel, who didn't get into Q3. He started on the medium compound tyres and is running long right up the front of the field. So he might actually buy himself into contention to win this race if this keeps up much longer, because the leaders, who have already stopped, are really struggling to make their way through the traffic. As you can see, we pretty much caught up to Kvyat, Gasly, and Lando. They're just a few seconds up the road. But yeah, they've still got another stop to make, and we are clear to run to the end. As you can see, we're trying to put pressure on Hubert. He's going very defensive down into turn 1, and we go clean around the outside. Bit of a lock-up, though, but we get the job done, and we're into P12. So, effectively, I think we're inside the top 5, maybe even, like, podium already. But we just need to wait for all the pit stops to shake up at this point. But at this stage, we're looking pretty good. We're going to try and get past Kvyat if we can. But he's got DRS and slipstream on Giovinazzi. So I think we might have to be patient here and just pick off the Alfa Romeo into turn 1. Kvyat makes a big mistake and leaves the door half open before shuts it. And now Giovinazzi is coming back at us again in the run into turn 2. But we make that move work for us around the outside. Fresh tyres is absolutely king here in Hungary, especially when you're running side by side with someone. New tyres all day long will give you the edge over everyone else. Anyway, we're approaching the halfway stage of this Hungarian Grand Prix, and we're closing into the race leaders quite nicely. Sebastian Vettel is nearing or has already made his pit stop. I need to check the minimap again to see where he is on the circuit, but this is still the battle just up the road. That's Lando and Gasly caught behind a Ferrari and Ocon. Meanwhile, this is Vettel right on cue, making his one and only stop from mediums to hards. And you can see all this free air that he's emerged in. That's the gap pretty much to me. So Vettel's job over the next 19 laps will be to close in that 4-second gap on much fresher tyres. So at this stage, it's looking like me versus Vettel versus possibly Verstappen or Norris for the victory in this Hungarian Grand Prix, with so much still left to play out. Oh, and Albon as well, who has just made his way into the pit lane. So has my teammate Lando Norris. So now we're going to start to see everything shake up in this Grand Prix as pretty much all the midfield runners start to stop, and then the front runners can make their charge towards myself, Leclerc, and Verstappen, by the way, who is on the hard compound tyres, who I actually forgot to mention. So as things stand, the top 4 cars are on hard compound tyres, and the lead runner on mediums is Albon. So I guess the ball is really in his court to see how quickly he can get through the field. I'm rating my chances of getting past Leclerc here, but I'll be honest, his pace is actually pretty good. And I'm struggling to really find a way past him at this stage. There's a bit of dirty air through the middle and third sector, which is holding me back a little bit. I am pushing to stay with him, to try and overtake him, but he's not really holding me up. We are some laps catching Verstappen. The gap was 5 seconds. It's down to 4.6, 4.7. It is yo-yoing a bit at this stage, but yeah, we're getting closer, and we're going to have to hope that we can get past the close soon so that we can make a massive charge for our race leader. But meanwhile, this is Vettel getting overtaken by Albon, and Vettel has got the freshest hard compound tyres out of any of us, and he's the one being overtaken by Albon. So that just kind of shows the pace of the Mercedes on fresh medium tyres at this stage. We really need to get a wriggle on now because Albon is closing by a second a lap, maybe even a little bit more. So we need to get past Leclerc ASAP because we want to protect our spot on the podium. We still want to win this race if we can. We are running out of time if we want to do so. We're going to have to hope that Verstappen backs it off in the last few laps. We are getting to a point where our fuel is breaking even and we're able to push to the end. We did underfuel the car, but you can see on this lap in particular, we're pushing actually really hard. We actually got our second warning of the race, and I've been running in rich and overtake a little bit in this middle sector, which I wouldn't normally do, just so I can be closer by the time we get out of the final corner. So hopefully this extra pushing will be worth it because we've overheated the tyres and the engine to put ourselves in this position to overtake Leclerc. And there we go, round the outside and down into turn 1. A bit of a lock up on the inside front tyre, but the job is done. And now, for the first time in this Grand Prix, we have P2, and we're looking pretty handy in this race. So I'm feeling pretty good about my chances, but Albon is still closing. He's 2.1 seconds behind us now. Leclerc is probably going to get overtaken fairly rapidly by the Mercedes. The Mercedes has an amazing engine, you would have to say. But here is the battle for the final spot on the podium in this Hungarian Grand Prix. And you can see straight away Leclerc is feeling the pressure of a much quicker Albon in that Mercedes. He goes up in a rich and overtake. DRS is open, and just like that, the Mercedes flies past the Ferrari and onto the podium now in this Hungarian Grand Prix. Meanwhile, it's kind of all hands on deck. Going hell for leather now, trying to catch up to Verstappen to see if I can win this race. But I think the bigger danger is actually losing P2 because Albon is flying. I've got no answer to his pace. He's already within a second of us, and the only thing that I've got to defend with is dirty air, which I'm trying to chuck at him left, right, and center. But here on the straight, this is where the high downforce of this car is really going to be tested. As you can see, Albon, out of turn 1, has absolutely disgusting traction and straight line speed. It's side by side through turn 2. We squeeze him out and just about hold on to the position which we fought so hard all race to cling on to get into, basically. But here's the replay. Albon flying. At straight line speed, that traction, whatever it is, the package in that Mercedes, it's hard. There's not much you can do to defend against that. I'm lost for words. Albon's driving right now is making me speechless. We've got 3 laps to go. So we've just got to push as much as we can. You abuse the tyres for all that they've got left. We are catching up to some back markers though. Mick Schumacher and Nobuharu Matsushita in the Williams. They could inadvertently help us if we can get some slipstream, some DRS over those guys. If Albon can get caught behind a Williams or two, that would really help us. So let's see. Schumacher is pretty friendly to both and gets well out of the way. So let's see what Matsushita does. We're going to catch him in a little bit more of an awkward part of the circuit, that being the middle sector, and he pulls out of the way also. So Albon is going to have a free shot at us as we sling on to the last straight on the last lap of this Hungarian Grand Prix. We're right on board with Albon. He's run wide, and I think actually he's got a problem. Albon is going to be out of this race. All of a sudden, he was looking like he was going to get P2 in this Grand Prix for sure, and now with like just over a lap to go, he's out of the Grand Prix. That must be so gutting for Mercedes, who are trying to vie for a Constructors' Championship. They're trying to put together a challenge for the driver's title. But reliability, strategic decisions, business decisions are holding them back from winning races, from winning championships. And it looks like it's all going to go tits up for those guys. Red Bull and Verstappen win the Hungarian Grand Prix. We're going to come home and somehow secure P2.
Top job, my friend, top job. I was a bit worried about this one at the start of the weekend, but you've pulled through. Thank you.
It's a performance to be proud of today from our Hungarian Grand Prix winners. Tell me, Ant, how do you think they were able to deliver such an incredible result today?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
The drivers are en route to the podium as we speak. What a fantastic win for the Red Bull team. They performed exceptionally today, keeping us firmly on the edge of our seats throughout the entirety of the race. Congratulations to everyone at the team.
Yeah, GG's to Red Bull. Their pace has been formidable. They don't have the best car, but they, at the moment, are proving to be the most consistent team right now. Lando started from pole position, blundered with the strategy, doing a 2-stop, threw the race away again. I say again, he did win the last race in pretty emphatic fashion, but today he certainly threw away the win. Verstappen getting a clean 25 points against his name. I think he's going to take the lead of the Drivers' Championship as well with that, as we will level on points heading into this one. So, yeah, a great day for Red Bull in both the drivers and the constructors. 2 drivers inside the top 4. Mercedes nowhere to be seen with Albon's DNF and Bottas. What are you doing in P14? That is just not good enough for a Mercedes driver. Big shout out to Jack Aiken as well, who benefited massively by doing the hard compound strategy and also benefiting from Albon's retirement, just nabbing himself inside the top 5. Albon, yeah, almost drive of the race, nearly pulling off the 2-stop, but then reliability cruelly going against him. In the driver's standings, Max Verstappen, like I said, shoots to the lead by 7 points. It's a points loss for Lando, who nearly falls outside of a race win of Max Verstappen. So the next few races are going to be absolutely telling to see if this is going to emerge to be a 3-horse race, or are we going to lose Lando from the championship campaign? And is it going to be Marduk Motorsport versus Red Bull? It's certainly shaping up to be that way in the constructors, as 25 points is the gap. Big points gained for Red Bull in the last couple of races. As us as a team, we've been a bit shaky, and we need to recoup a bit of that momentum as we head into Spa and Monza. Personally, 2 circuits being, very favorable for myself. So I think my championship is really going to be shaped by how well I do over the next 2 power tracks. So join me for those next 2 races. Championship is looking pretty spicy at this stage. There's still plenty more left to come, and I'm very eager to see what happens with Albon and how he fights back after the disappointment of this race. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to see plenty more racing game content. And until the next one, the Belgian Grand Prix, I'll see you next time.